Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of an extra slice of history with the Butterfly Princess. Now, this week we are continuing our mini series on the wives of Henry VIII. We're on to episode 2 of 6 in this mini series, where today I'm going to tell you about Henry VIII's second wife, Anne Boleyn. Now, I feel that this Anne Boleyn, to me anyway, Anne Boleyn is a very fascinating character. So, after this series, I'm going to do a mini series specifically on Anne Boleyn because I feel that she's such a fascinating character and there's so much information that I feel that I want to share with you all in this series. So that will be a mini series sometimes in some point in the future. So today we're just going to focus on who Anne Boleyn was, her main life, who she was really. So Anne Boleyn was the second second wife of Henry VIII. She was the second of his 6 wives, and she had one living child with Henry VIII. That was Elizabeth, who later became Elizabeth I. Though Anne Boleyn was known to play a major role in the sort of religious reform in England, she was the main reason why Henry VIII decided to break with Rome and divorce his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, and declare himself the supreme head of the church. And that's how the creation of the Church of England came into being. So we don't know. Nobody knows the specific year and date of Anne Boleyn's birth, but it's widely believed that she was born around the year 1501, so near to the beginning of the 16th century. She was the daughter of she was born in the county of Norfolk, and she was the daughter of Sir Thomas Boleyn and his wife Elizabeth Howard. She was also the cousin of Henry VIII's 5th wife, Catherine Howard, but we'll talk more about her in the coming episode. So, Sir Thomas Boleyn and Elizabeth Howard had many children, but only 3 of them survived infancy into adulthood. Now, these children were Mary, George, and Anne. And Anne was believed to have been the second of the surviving children. Now, even though Henry was had a mad, deep passion and was probably in the beginning madly in love with Anne Boleyn because he sacrificed a lot for her. He sacrificed his relationship with Rome. He sacrificed, his long-standing marriage with his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. Anne Boleyn was only Queen of England for 3 years. She was only Queen from the year 1533 up to her death up to her date of execution by beheading that took place on the 19th of May 1536. She was arrested on numerous charges and and suspicion of of crimes such as adultery and incest, and she was taken to the Tower of London, where she was, like I just said, eventually executed at the hands of a French swordsman. Um, um, she was educated in Brussels, the capital of modern day Belgium, and Paris, the capital of France. And she eventually returned to England by the request of her father, Sir Thomas Boleyn, and her uncle in the year of 50, Thomas Howard, the Duke of Norfolk, um, to England in the year of 1522. And on that return, she worked as a lady in waiting to Henry's first wife, Catherine. Um, she was a very sexualized being, but she wasn't known to be very attractive. She caused a stir in the English court because she captivated the hearts of both the earldom of Northumberland, that was Henry Percy, and she also captured the heart of a poet named Sir Thomas Wyatt. Um, and and shortly after, the king, Henry VIII, became interested um in the young Anne Boleyn. Now it's interesting this because Anne Boleyn had absolutely no interest of being the next notch on Henry VIII's bedpost. She'd obviously heard, various stories of, the various mistresses that had visited Henry VIII's bed. And obviously she will have known that her own sister, Mary, was also a mistress to Henry VIII. It's been rumoured, although it's never been proven quite truthfully, that Mary Boleyn, the sister of Anne Boleyn, mothered a child by Henry VIII, a boy, but he was never put in named as a legitimate heir. The only legitimate heir, the only legitimate sort of bastard who was declared legitimate and was named in the line of succession was a boy called Henry Fitzroy, who was pronounced who came as a result of Henry's affair with another lady in waiting named Bessie Blank. But apart from that, all his other mistresses, along with Mary, was thrown away and forgotten about or sent away after the king had his fun with them, got bored with them, and decided to move on. Well, Anne had obviously heard about all this and obviously was very dubious that she didn't want to end up in the same position as many of his mistresses. So, despite all his, advancements towards and his various love tokens and gifts and poems that he wrote were she disregarded that because she wanted, in order for her to become his bedfellow, she wanted him to be married she wanted him to marry her so that in order so any possible children they may have in the future would be known as legitimate and rightful heirs to the throne of England. Um, um, And so eventually, regardless of all his attempts, he listened to Anne, and in May 1527, Henry actually began his long attempt to secure a papal annulment of his marriage to his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. So this was resulting in Anne being Queen in all but name, and she was now a political figure, instrument in she had great influence over over Henry VIII, and she played a fundamental role and was the great enemy of Cardinal Wolsey, who was the cardinal. And Henry VIII had a great love and respect for the Cardinal Wolsey, but once Anne came along, he obviously took a very much dislike to her, and he didn't want to make her an enemy of Anne, because she would ultimately have your head on a spike, and that's what ultimately happened with Cardinal Wolsey. Under Anne's influence, Henry VIII eventually had Cardinal Wolsey imprisoned and executed. Um, um, in the year 1532, um, and executed more influence over Henry, because in that year, Henry had her created, because in the year of 1532, in the month of September, Henry had Anne created as the Marquis of Pembroke. And this gave Anne enough status in order to accompany Henry on a state visit to France to visit his great enemy Francis I. She fell pregnant very shortly after this being made Marquis of Pembroke, and she fell pregnant, obviously, at the time with Elizabeth, although they desperately wanted a girl, and they married on the 25th of January in the year of 1533. But even though they married in secret, Henry VIII was still not officially divorced from his first wife, Catherine. Um, so Anne was anti-papal. She was very against the papal deposition, and bought Simon Fisher, who was also an anti-cleric, and he bought it to the increasing and he bought increasing pressure to the clergy, and this forced obviously put them under a lot of pressure and forced them to accept Henry as supreme head of the Church of England in the year 1531. In 1533, Thomas Cranmer, who was a, a fan of the Boleyn family, he was also the Boleyn family chaplain, and who was made the new Archbishop of Canterbury by Henry. And he ultimately declared his, that Archbishop Cranmer, Archbishop Thomas Cranmer ultimately declared an annulment to the marriage of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon. So in the year 1533, and on the 7th of September of that year, Anne, although promised Catherine, although was sure she was pregnant with the boy that Henry desperately yearned for in order to secure the Tudor line, obviously gave birth to a daughter who they named Elizabeth, who would ultimately become Elizabeth I in 1558, and she would rule for over 40 years. But within months of their marriage, Catherine, Henry, like with many of his women, became very bored, so he found many mistresses who would warm his bedside up, and obviously, while the queens were pregnant, and Anne found this to her peril, that it was advised in Tudor times that when a woman was pregnant, they had to abstain from, sexual desires, sexual activities. They couldn't have sex in the marriage bed. So obviously Henry, being a man and having very many sexual needs, he sought the comfort of many mistresses, and unlike Catherine, who was a law-obedient wife who turned a blind eye to his many mistresses, Anne was very vocal. She was the very opposite to Catherine, which she expressed her views on this, but Henry just told her to shut up, basically shut up, and must shut her eyes and endure all the mistresses. So he could have fun with the many mistresses, and she just had to put up with it, basically. Anne Boleyn fell pregnant many other times, but these pregnancies either ended up in stillbirths or miscarriages. And, Henry again got very bored with this, because he sort of realised that Anne Boleyn wasn't going to bear him a son as she promised. So his attention started to move elsewhere, and he was falling in love, and his attention fell on to one of Anne's ladies in waiting, the very plain Jane Seymour, and he was looking to end his marriage. On the 30th of April, 1536, a musician called Mark Smeaton, under torture, admitted to having a sexual relationship with Anne, and her having many other lovers, as male lovers, because this was done under the watchful eye of Thomas of Thomas Cromwell, who Henry had instructed him to find any measures in order to get rid of his second wife, so he could remarry again. So it's very, very unlikely that these adultery and incest claims were true. They were obviously falsified by Cromwell on, the orders of Henry VIII. She was even accused of having an ancestral relationship with her brother George. And these accusations were more spearheaded on by George's wife, Jane Parker, the Lady Rochford. So Anne and her brothers and brother Mason and other men, including Henry Norris, Henry Brereton, were convicted and trumped up charges with the men and were executed on the 17th of May. This was the same day that the marriage between Anne and Henry was annulled, and that news was delivered to Anne by Archbishop Thomas Cranmer. And on the 19th of May, despite Anne was set to be executed long before that date of the 19th of May, 1536, but there were many delays because Henry had ordered a French swordsman to carry out the execution of Anne Boleyn, and this French swordsman was delayed for a few days between Calais and Dover, so that's why the execution was delayed, and eventually this French swordsman crept up very quietly behind Anne and severed her head with just one fatal blow. So the death of Anne Boleyn obviously shocked many of her counterparts, but although she didn't provide Henry VIII with a much wanted son, her greatest legacy was that of her daughter, Elizabeth, who became known as Elizabeth I in 1558, because out of all of the three children of Henry VIII, one of them being Edward VI, who ruled for only 5 years from him being 15. Elizabeth was the longest living monarch of all the three children, of all Henry VIII's three children. She ruled the longest between the years of 1558 and 1603, and this was where the Tudor line ended, with the eventual death of Elizabeth the first, because she refused to marry, and so she didn't have any male heir. So from her death, the Tudor line came to an end, and that's when James VI, I think, of Scotland, who became known as James I of England, became the ruler, and that was when what started off a new dynasty, which was the Stuart dynasty. So in all in all, Anne Boleyn's greatest legacy was that of her daughter Elizabeth. So that concludes this week's edition of An Extra Slice of History with the Butterfly Princess. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you can join me again next time. Until then, have a lovely rest of your week, and I will see you again very soon. Bye for now.